Hello and welcome to another bodgit and leggit video. Now, what we're going to do today is handbrake cables on a 2003 Hyundai Santa Fe. So obviously we have discs, pads, and we have shoes inside the disc. That's where the handbrake cable works on. Some handbrake cables work off a caliper, and I actually have one of them. Funnily enough, I've got to do this job next week. So this is a caliper. But as you can see, it has the extra bit on, so the handbrake works off the caliper, which makes life so much easier. But anyway, we don't have this on this. Take the wheel off, kind of goes without saying. Take the brake, caliper and carrier off. So only 2 bolts in the back. I've already done that. This just slides off. You see the 2 bolts here, 2 14mm bolts. So that can just stay out of the way for the minute. Next we have a Phillips screw. Now this one wasn't too tight, which is good. So take that off, and as you can see we have the little rubber kind of grommety thing here. So what we need to do is we need to get this more or less at the bottom within reason and take this grommet out, and what we're looking for is the adjuster. Now when I get it off I'll show you it, but I'm not going to be able to show you. It's just there. When I get it off I'll show you. So we need to screw off the adjuster to get the brake off without doing any damage to pads or shoes or clips or anything like that. So now that's loose. What that has made me do, or made it, it's so much easier just to pull that off. It's as simple as that. And that's where the brake shoes rub. Now, this is all new, so we haven't got an issue. Now, I don't know if you can see. Now, as you can see, this is the adjuster, and depending which way you screw it, will adjust the brakes in or adjust the brakes out. So this one's going to be a bit tricky. This one, you can't take off this. Well, you can. But to take off this, you're taking the bearing off, and you can just kind of cause damage. Well, not so much damage, but you can cause damage, and it's very. This could be seized onto the bearing, and the bearing isn't gone, and I could damage the bearing taking it out. So I'm going to leave this centre hub on. Normally, you'll see on a couple of other videos I do take it off because it does make your life easier. This allows you to get to these clips a little bit easier. This is the brake line coming in. And unfortunately it goes all the way underneath and it goes inside the car. Some of them go on the outside, this one goes on the inside and it connects to the handbrake on the inside. Some of them connect to the handbrake on underneath the floor. So again, that makes it a little bit trickier as well. This is our new handbrake cable. This is the part that connects to the shoes, which is here, and this is the part that connects to the handbrake. And as you can see, we have a few clips, brackets and all sorts of stuff on it. So we need to obviously connect all them. What happens with most handbrake cables, they can snap, but normally they stretch before they break, normally. So even though they might physically look good, they're stretched. And when they get too far stretched, it's very difficult to adjust them. You can't adjust all the adjustment out of them. So this is where a new one comes in. But bear in mind, when you put a new one in, could take 2 months, could take a month, could take 3 months. They do stretch a little bit at first, so you have to come back and kind of re-tighten them. So that's just something to kind of bear in mind. So that's that. What we need to do is we need to take these shoes off. So we've got 2 clips here, we've got 2 springs at the top, and we have a spring underneath at the bottom. And we have a separator bar right at the top, and we have the adjuster bar at the bottom. Now there's 2 different types of clips here, and there shouldn't be, but we can address that when the time comes. This might be difficult to film and kind of do, but I'll do my best. It's tricky at the best of times. I have 1 clip off, which is the wrong one. So we're going to address that when we come to put it back together. Not going to be an issue for us now. Now, I might get in the way of this, but what I'm going to try and do we have a pin like this, and we have the spring that fits on top and a little collar that stops the spring from flying off. So from the back of it I'm going to press my finger to stop the pin coming out, and with the pin nose pliers I'm going to push the cap, twist it 180 degrees, push the spring in, and it'll all release. Once I get it off, I'll show you, because I might have to get in the way of the camera just to do this. So you have three parts. You have the little spring, the clamp that holds the spring on, and the little needle. I'm sure there's proper names for it, but anyway. The spring goes in, and this little cap, as you can see, is split one way. So it goes in, you turn 180 degrees, that keeps the spring under tension and it keeps everything in place. So now we've done that, I can just take these top springs off first. Now, these top springs, they're very powerful, so be very careful. That's the adjuster at the bottom. As you can see, as you twist this out, this fella screws out or screws in, which what adjusts your brakes. This is the clip at the top. I just got my screwdriver and lifted it around the little arm, and as you can see, it popped off. This is the spring at the bottom, which holds the two bottom ones together. And then we have our kind of a separator bar which goes between the top two. So, same thing again. Grab the spring, if you can. Unfortunately on this one. Now. And now we're left with the handbrake going down. Well, we was actually having a problem with this. I'll take this off first and I'll show you. The problem we was having, it was making a noise. Everything was working fine, but there was a clicking noise, a click, 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 and obviously very frustrating, very annoying, as you can imagine. What I need to do now is, this can be easy or an absolute nightmare. I need to push the spring back. As I push the spring back, I'll show you on this one. As I push the spring back, which compresses it, now it's easy with this one being out, it allows me to, with the gap I get there, to unhook it from this connection. Now this can go, like I said, really easy, or it can be an absolute nightmare. Now because we're replacing these, it doesn't actually matter what we do with it. Can I do it that way? Ow. I have to get some vice grips on this, because this is just a bloody nightmare. Hold this first, maybe. Put it this way. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll try it. No, that's not going to work. I can't get the spring back enough. What I might do, just to make it a lot easier for me, because this is just going to take forever, I'm just going to cut this. What I ended up doing is just cutting the spring. My cutting blade was very thin or very small, so I couldn't cut all the way through, but still done the same job. Now the problem I was having, it was kind of this noise, constant. And if you imagine that constant, that is very annoying. So what I'm thinking is happening is, and you can see a slight bit of kind of damage or wear mark just there. Might not show on camera, but it's there. What I'm hoping is that the handbrake cables are stretched, even though, to be fair, I have adjusted them obviously, but I can only adjust them so far before these start locking, and I've gone as far as I can without causing damage as regards these locking and overheating. I can't go anymore. So I'm hoping that once I change these handbrake cables, the slack out the handbrake cable is going to give me my problem, because you can adjust them on the handbrake cable, don't get me wrong, but the best way to adjust them is you adjust them on the adjuster first. The handbrake cable then is like your fine adjustment. And the problem is, you can actually see now, thinking about it there, look, I don't know if that's coming through, see the wear marks there, so I'm kind of more or less sure now that's a problem. And if I adjust it too much with my handbrake, all that happens is I basically pull in the handbrake on, and I can't go too far. So when I go too far, the handbrake is either on, I slacken it off, it's just too slack. So this is what I hope it is. There's only one way to find out. And if it's not, bloody annoying, because this isn't a quick job. In fact, it's a bloody nightmare. So I'm just gonna seal this, maybe not here. This is the first step here, and it's just full of crud. I'm gonna just uncrud it. And not only that, you learn new words on this show. Uncrud. It's a new word. Alright, I can see the bolt now. We have a cable tie, we can cut that off. And then we can get to handbrake cable. A good thing about having the part beside you is if you're not sure how it connects and how it goes on, you have all the connections and everything, so you can see, you look at that end, you say, oh look, there's a little screw there, or there's this, there's that. So it gives you an idea of how to actually put things on or take things off, having the new part beside you. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to undo this bolt, which hopefully is a 13 or 14 because I have them beside me. And no, it's not. 12mm. 12mm it is. You also need to be careful you don't break these, because you break any of these connections, well, not so much the connections, because obviously you get new connections on your new handbrake cable, but if you snap any of the bolts, then you're in trouble, because obviously they won't pass any test with a snap bolt, because it won't be secured to the vehicle properly. Once I get this off, I'll have a bit more slack to take it off the end inside the brakes. Should we get my air tools out? Life's so much easier. Now, we've got a little bit more slack here, so we can hopefully, I think this just pulls out of this end. I can't see any clips, and from the looks of the other one, it just kind of stays in. So I'm going to get my vice grips and try and lever it off, if I can lever it against something, that is, which is not looking promising at the minute. This job, I think, is just going to be an absolute nightmare. What I'm going to do is I'm going to undo a couple more clips underneath the vehicle. I'll get it off here, I'll turn the camera back on, and then we'll see where we're at. The car has drawn first blood, so the game is now on. And because I'm a man, I'm just going to, I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to forget about it and keep going. I'm not even going to mention it. You're not even going to know it happened. So there you go. Right, I'm back. What happened is I chopped off my hand. I'm not going to show you because there's no need, but I physically chopped off my hand, so I had to call my mum, but it's all alright now. But I'm not going to say anything about it because I'm going to crack on. Now, we have the old handbrake cable off, and this is now a good time to check. So physically make sure they're the same length. Sometimes handbrake cables, the spurious handbrake cables are slightly longer. But as long as you put 2 on, it doesn't matter. So what you want to make sure, as regards, you know, are all the clips and bumps and everything in the right place. Another good thing to check, these little balls, I can't show you inside the car because there's just no room and it's dark. But this little ball slots into a slot and then turns 90 degrees and that's when it holds it. But it's a good thing to check that they're both the same size, because I've come across them before where they don't fit in the hole properly and you have to shave a bit off, and it's an absolute nightmare, especially in this vehicle because you can't see it. So basically you go down. Now these clips we've got here are adjustable, so we can put these clips anywhere we want, so we know the clips are going to be okay. What I had to do is I had to chop the end of this off, because taking it out of the hub, it's kind of pressed in and this little rubber O-ring seals it, and it was really hard to get off, and I actually damaged it getting it off, so I couldn't take the other end off, so I cut it. So now basically we're just going to stick it back in, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 11mm bolts that hold this on, plus the connection that goes into the hub, plus the connection that goes on the handbrake. So we're just going to bang this back in. I can't really show you inside the car because there's just no room, so I'm going to put it on, and this kind of goes without saying, the bolt holes are fairly straightforward. So once I get all that back in, we'll turn the camera off and I'll show you putting this back on, putting the brakes back on and trying to get some sort of adjustment on it. That's the plan. So we've just got one more bolt to put on here, but I'm going to leave that until I get this threaded in, and hopefully we'll go underneath the car and we'll see now. We have one bracket here, another bracket, another one, and here's where it goes into the car. This is the part after that I can't really show you, unfortunately. A good thing to bear in mind is when you're putting your connections on, one end's going to be easy, the other end's going to be hard, and it depends which one you put on first, because obviously there's a lot of slack here now. When I put the end inside the car, it's going to tighten this up. I personally put the end in the car first because I'd rather struggle with this, which has got a lot more open space, than the one inside the car. It's up to yourself, but personally I like to put the one inside the car on first and then kind of struggle with this. Now this might go on easy, but they normally, as you can see, was taking it off, they're quite tight. So I'm just going to pop it on the inside of the car first and then get back to this side. A couple of good tips here on your handbrake cable. Normally, like I said, you have to, you know, make sure these are the same size, but I don't know if you can see right on the top of that, the cable's just poking through. That will stop you from putting it in the hole. So just give that a nice little grind just to make it level. If you don't do it, you'll never get it in. Another good tip is when you are trying to put it in on the handbrake side, is obviously you've got the spring. The spring is going to be fighting against you. So the best thing to do, get some vice grips, go in behind the spring, because you can see if I pull this spring back, you can see I've got maybe three extra inches of cable, which can make all the difference, because believe me, inside this is a nightmare. Whoever designed this needs a bullet. But anyway, so you put the handbrake cable in, the vice grips in behind, slide it all the way up until the spring is compressed. Close the vice grips and you can see how much more cable I have to play with inside. So that's a good thing. Next thing we need to do, is feed the handbrake cable back in the right place into the dust guard. Make sure you are feeding it correctly. As we can see, that is wrong. So this needs to go this side of that, which then basically is there. Then the handbrake cable, yeah. So that goes there. The ABS sensor then clips on. Right, what I've just noticed is someone put the wrong connection on this handbrake cable. As you can see, you have a little like guiding step, and then you have the hole, and that lines up. So it just makes, it's not really important, but it lines you up in the hole. This one says, they both have different numbers and they say left and right, so I've obviously got the right one. But what's obviously happened is, in the factory or wherever, these both are the same connection. Should be a left and a right connection. Now it's not the end of the world, we can get away with it. But what we're going to have to do is just get the grinder and just grind off this little nipple here. Then that will allow us to sit it flat into our hole. Not the end of the world, but just something to bear in mind. The spurious parts at the end of the day, they don't necessarily always work without a little bit of modification. That's all I had to do. Now that will go in there, the ABS sensor will fit on. Sorted. So this could be a bit tricky too. A bit of WD-40, so a bit of lube, and this needs to be pushed in. Which, there we go. Now that's now pushed in, and this is obviously our spring. Now, lucky enough, I have a good bit left, as we can see, because I have completely and utterly slackened off the inside of the car. So that actually allows us this side to make our life this side a bit easier. So that's in. You want to make sure, give it a nice pull, make sure it's in, it's not doing anything. Now, there is a couple of strike pads. Hopefully they're coming across on camera. It's where this actually sits and hits the dust plate. Now it's good to just put a bit of copper grease just on them little pads. It stops squealing, it stops, just like the front brakes. So it kind of stops everything. And hopefully we'll be able to stop that horrible rattle. So I'm going to get some copper grease and just on them pads. You don't need to go mad, it just helps with noise. Now, there's a few ways of doing this. It's always best, I think, to put this on first. Now, lucky enough, we have a lot of spare cable. Well, not spare cable, but we have a lot of slack because I've slackened off. So that means that can go on so easy. That makes our life bloody brilliant. So, I don't know if you remember, but we had two different clips on here. Someone who's been working on this obviously broke this clip, which they do happen, they do break. These things do break, they do go rusty and break. And he decided to put a spring on. He replaced it, but he replaced it with a really weak spring. The brake was just flopping around, no good. I put that other spring on, well, what was a spring, it was a clip, just to tie him over for a few weeks, because he needed the Jeep for work. So now, basically, I said when we do the handbrake cables, we'll fix this properly. So I had to buy genuine ones, and they come in 3 different packs, which is ridiculous. They should just sell the whole set. But anyway, so I've got the new parts here, which we're going to put on. So we'll have no worries and no issues with anything. Now that wasn't causing our noise, by the way, because the clip I put on it afterwards was, to be fair, it would have worked, but it wasn't particularly right for it. I just like to get things right. But it did, it was a stopgap, it did what it needed it to do, so it's all good. So what I need to do is feed this through first, just a little pin, line it up with my disc, which is there. Now, this can be a bit tricky. The way I like to do this need to get my smaller vice grips. You've got to love vice grips. Have about 7 or 8 different types, and they're all brilliant. So what I'm doing is I've got my little pin nose vice grips, and I like to hold the spring and the stopper at the end together because it saves your hands. put my finger on the back of the pin, put this on. Now line it up first with the right slot. Compress the spring, turn it 180 degrees and let go. Simple as that. I've seen people try to put screwdrivers in there and it just slips off. That, seconds, sorted, done, don't have to worry about it. Now, as you can see, that is going to keep it tight. Now there's nothing on the bottom, but before it was just completely loose and flapping. And the problem is that if that ever came off, he could have put them in the ditch, could have killed them. So whoever did it, well, just shouldn't have done it. I'd sooner have to tell the person, look, I need the Jeep for a few more days or the car, and we get the right parts, rather than doing anything, because it's just not worth the risk for anybody involved. So what I need to do next, before I forget, is just to put the bottom clip on first, because this bottom spring goes on the inside of the brakes, because the adjuster goes on top. So we'll just put that on. A few different ways of doing this now. The thing you can't forget is to put this little thing on the top. It just stops it allows the brakes to pivot on a point. There's a little spring on one side, so you don't want to forget that. And believe me, it sounds obvious, but it's easy if you got. I know from experience. So, what I like to do is get the shoe now. Put the bottom spring on now because it just makes your life so much easier. And even this can be tricky. As you can see, it's not playing ball. Now, I'm going to leave the adjuster out for the minute. No need to put that on. Smooth the spring out of the way so it's not going to interfere with us. Make sure the bar we just put in the top lines up with everything. So just need to make sure it lines up with everything, which it does. It's just come out. This is where it's going to be quite tricky to film and do everything at the same time, but I will try. It just fell, which was a little pin, but that's not to worry at the minute. So the things are in at the top, the spring is in at the bottom. I'm going to have to let go of that, hopefully nothing moves. And do the same thing to this side. With the spring. So I'm actually only holding this little top bit, and then the spring just sits on. So I'm not actually holding the spring, even though it's sitting there, but I'm just holding the top bit. So now I know it's kind of come out there, but don't worry about that yet. You can always fix that later. Most important thing is to get these two springs in first. That just holds everything for you. And then you can worry about other things, because this side is a lot tighter. So if I can just get that in. And as you can see, it's a lot harder. Thought I had it there. Nope. Yeah. Oh man, this has just been a nightmare from start to finish, and everything's moving on me now. I'm going to move it out to make it slightly easier for me, and hopefully it won't hinder me going forward. Gotcha. All I'm really worried about is the bottom spring, that the bottom spring hasn't come off. I can adjust these two at the top, but as long as the bottom spring hasn't come off, which it hasn't. So now we can just get these sitting back right, which is, take your finger out of the way. Now, see? Oh, camera's that right at the top. Let's just move it up. Now, I'm obviously holding the toppings, I haven't put the two top springs in, but it's more or less in. These two top springs then will hold the top in. Once I've got them in, I can actually put the bottom adjuster in. You've got a centre pivot point, or a centre pin coming out of here, and basically what happens is one pin goes on the bottom like that, so the loop goes on the bottom, the other pin, the loop goes on the top, and it actually holds itself like that on this pin. First, and you see you've got like a 90-degree end on one side, so you just push that end in. Now these springs are very, very strong, and they will bite. You can slip off, they're very in your face, they're a nightmare, they're very, very strong springs. You do have to be careful. There's no real like easy way of doing this. Sometimes you can get a pliers on the top and you can stretch it, it goes over. Sometimes you have to get a screwdriver, but the screwdriver always seems to slip off. There's just no real easy way. They'll either go on so quick and you'll think, oh, that was easy, or they'll just cause you a nightmare. And with the way everything's going on this, I have a feeling the way this is going to go. So I'm going to first try it with, with my little vice grips. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to grab the top of it just to the point, right at the bottom of the bend. Hopefully I won't get in the way of the camera. Now, that's gone on, but the plate behind has moved, so this is where it can get a bit dicey. Let's move that plate in place. Now, the springs hold this little fella on, so once you've got one spring on, just like that, the spring will hold it on. Now, that is on, sorted. That one actually went on quite easy, but it's the neck spring that normally causes a problem, so I'm just pushing this back into place now, and as you can see, once I put the second spring on, that will hold that in. It's also a good thing to make sure that, you know, this is, the top of the shoes are actually in line with this big circular cylinder that sticks out, because that's where it pivots, so that this part stays and the bottom part spreads out, so it all kind of pivots up here. So you want to make sure everything is the same. You know, one side isn't got a big gap, because one side's got a big gap, you'll never be able to get the handbrake adjustment right. It'll either just be sticking on, it won't work at all, and it'll just cause you an absolute nightmare. The same again, I'm going to put the vice grip on the end of the spring, about there, and hopefully, well, this one now is actually the harder one, and the reason it's the harder one, because this is the one that comes from the bottom up. So that's why this side's now going to be a bit trickier. Should have maybe put this side on first. It doesn't matter, but we'll see how it goes. It's actually getting caught between the hub now and the thing. So what I'm going to do is, it looks like this one's slightly thinner, so I wasn't looking, I should have put that one on first. So take this one back off, which is easier than putting it on. You have to be careful it doesn't spring back in your face. Now, this one is physically thinner than this one. So, do all that again. The joys of being a mechanic. Put that at the bottom. Put that in first. Open that away. Spread that over. That's another problem. Even when I got it over, it still pops off. See how the first one went on so easy, but I had to take it off? This one's going to be a nightmare now. So, it's all sprung off here as well. So put that back on. Make sure the bottom spring is still on, which it is. Make sure that's on, we can sort that out afterwards. You've had just one of them days, because this is the day I'm having. Just one of them bloody days. I'm now going to try and grip this down further and just hook over the actual hook part. See what happens there. Now, that worked for the top one. So I grabbed it there rather than up here and I hooked it over. But it won't work for this one because this one has to go underneath and come on the top. So let's just make sure that's all in proper, which it is. Put that on. Grab this from the top this time. Push that in and hope for the best. That's gone in. So I'm going to put my screwdriver here so it can't pop back out when I release it. Aha! It's in! Well, it would be if this is in place, which it isn't. See, I thought I got it in, but I haven't. It's in, but now this backing plate isn't, and the little edge of the first spring is catching it. So when I lift it up, I'm lifting up the first spring, and I could pop off the first spring. So I've got to try and move this somehow without popping off the first spring. Oh, what a day. This is not good. Nope. See, this is what people don't see. What should be a few minutes job, it's only a couple of clips, could take you an hour. And this is the problem with being a mechanic, because there's a lot of times you really don't get paid for what you do. Sorted it. Whew. Now, we've got good, they're both touching the top here. The springs are in. Nothing's loose, as you can see. This is all nice and good. I'm going to put the bottom tensioner in now. And it's always a good thing on your tensioner to make sure it's completely screwed down. And this part pops off, so you can twist. You can actually you twist this end, because if you twist this end, it'll start screwing out. So you put that end in first, and you twist this to line up to the little grooves that are in the actual shoe part. Now, this shouldn't be too difficult, but then neither should putting the springs on. So, let's see what happens. First off, I need to get it in. So now it's in. I can line up the first one with that, just like that. And then angle. I'm not playing ball with me here. The other side that I'm doing, which I'm not filming, just watch it go perfectly. Because I'm not filming it. Just. Now, that shouldn't have happened. The little pin, or the little other end has popped out. We've got one end in. So with the screwdriver now, I should just be able to literally push, get it in place, move the screwdriver out, bit of a wiggle, and it should just sit, there we go. It's now seated itself back in. The actual spring behind it acts as a lock, so when you adjust the adjustment, it doesn't just keep screwing. So that's it. They're on, doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like I said, they come out this way. It's all good there. We've put the piece on. Next thing we want to do is line up all the holes, because we've got a couple of screws, so we need to make sure all the holes are lined up. So this should just go on. Yeah, so easy. This shouldn't be hard to come on now. The brakes and everything are completely slackened back, so this should just fall on, just like it's done there. What we want to do next is put the screw in. So you had one screw, even though there's a place for two, but that's nothing to worry about. Now, before I tighten this and adjust this properly, because I've completely and utterly slackened the bolts off on the inside and I haven't done the far side, I'm going to do the far side, put the new handbrake cable in, put all the bolts back, and then adjust this last. So I'm going to turn the camera back on when I'm at that stage, which, if it goes the way it's been going, it's about 3 weeks. Turn the camera back on, show you how to adjust it, bang on the wheel, you're away. Simple. It's supposed to be simple. Cars say. So now I'm at the part where I need to tighten this. Now it's important you get this right. Too loose, you won't have a handbrake. Too tight, you'll overheat the hub, you'll destroy the bearing, new shoes, blah 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 blah. Get it too loose as well, you can also cause a vibration. So we need to get this just right. And you've seen the little tensioner. The easiest way I find is to tension it all up so you can't go anymore till the brake is completely locked. Do it the right way, which doesn't help either. So this is definitely the right way. Now Now you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing this until the brake's locked. I'll turn the camera back on then and you'll see where I'm going. Right. You can take our phone. Now start again before it's rudely interrupted. So, the tricky thing with this is, because you can't really see what you're doing, and that spring I showed you behind the shoes, you can feel like you're turning it, but you're actually not, it's slipping. Anyway, I finally got it where I can move it slightly, but it is locked. So what I want to do now is slacken it off, one click. Now I just want to do it another half a click, just. Now, that's what you want. You want a slight bit of tension on it, but obviously not loads, enough so you can turn it, it's not jamming. You also want to make sure it's not jammed on the back. Best way of doing this sometimes is just literally putting the wheel back on. Once you put the wheel back on, you can kind of turn it. Now as you can see, I can turn that. There's a slight bit of tension on it, but literally a few miles down the road that'll be fine. So that's what you're looking for, just that slight bit of tension on it. You don't want it too loose. So you don't want it too loose, and you want to make sure it goes in, it reverses, because what happens sometimes is I've seen these go forward and for some reason they lock going back, which is obviously what you don't want. So that's now good. We can put the little grommet back in to save all the crap getting in. Just put on our two bolts for the carrier, bang the wheel back on. It really is as simple as that. You might have to in a few months just give the handbrake a bit of a tweak because they tend to stretch new cables. And that's really it. There's nothing really to it. It'll nightmare doing it, don't get me wrong, absolute nightmare doing it. But that's really it, simple as that. You know, make sure your adjustments are right, adjust it in there. Now what you want to do when you adjust it in there is you'll see if you feel any slack in the handbrake, you're not doing the adjustment's now done. Phone again. The adjustment is now done here, so you don't want to do any more adjusting up there because you're gonna adjust this here. If you feel like you pull the handbrake but you're not pulling the cable, say one click, just give the handbrake a bit of a tweak until as soon as you start lifting you're pulling the handbrake cable, but don't adjust it up there anymore. After a few months, adjust it up there. So that's it, simple as that. Hope it helps. Thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.